When the lights began to go on in New York, forecasters still looked to the closest popular vote in recent history. In Times Square, barricades were knocked together to protect the store windows from the crowds that were already bunching up on street corners. At 6 o'clock, returns began to come in from the small towns in the north. It looked like the biggest registration on record, and before the day was over, 50 million ballots would be counted. Towns in Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont showed a month waiting to get the returns from the traveling sign on the Times building, waiting to breathe in some of the excitement of the big night. Bob Trout began a broadcasting stint that would last until breakfast. Counted soldier votes ran about parallel to the civilian choice, showing that the opinions of the GIs marked Dewey trend. As soon as the ballots had been tabulated, the score went out on the wire, and first-string radio announcers began to take over the microphones. In New York, and the people back home were the same. Dewey took an early lead in Connecticut and Missouri. Voters in Italy heard that Roosevelt was leading in Arizona. France heard that Dewey was ahead in Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas. California, Georgia, Connecticut, Delaware were going to the president. Arizona, Alabama, Idaho, Illinois followed. Vice President Wallace predicted a Roosevelt victory, leading the other forecasters by a good 3 hours. Most Americans stayed at home and close to the radio after supper. At 9:30, at 10 o'clock, Pittsburgh's Allegheny County turned in a lead for Roosevelt, upsetting Republican predictions in a vital state. And from then on in, the president began to gather the lead that brought him victory. It was a cold, clear night in New York. You could hear the shouting of the crowds for 15 blocks. It can be a question of conscience and not a matter of force. Blocks in either direction. Picked up by the airwaves, you could hear them above the noise of the rain in Hütgen Forest. You could hear them on the China airstrips, where the B-29s were warming up for the blow at Tokyo. They were cheering the victory of their candidate, and they were living proof that government, even in a time of war,